On the eastern front of Ukraine, a Russian soldier crouches down in his foxhole as AI-directed smart artillery pinpoints his exact location and adds him to the list of potential targets. Across the world in the US, Amazon employees are monitored and their behavior is logged. Later analysis will reveal how their managers can squeeze as much productivity out of them as possible. Meanwhile in the UK, a local police department is using software to monitor the community they're meant to protect. They'll build a wider view of problem areas while also creating specific profiles on the people most likely to commit crimes. So what links all of these things together? The data analysis giants known as Palantir, whose software models are embedded in every level of society.
All of a sudden while this is going on, a lot of people are not comfortable with Palantir, so a lot of people are wondering, they're saying, okay, let's see what's going to happen here. Laura Loomer comes out and tweets about Palantir, and she says, maybe this is time for Palantir to be used, right? I think time to deploy Palantir tech to LA to deal with the illegals. You know you'd love to see it. You're lying if you wouldn't.
That's
now,
weird.
what is Palantir? Why don't we go there? What is Palantir? For some of you that don't know, the history of Palantir is very, very spooky.
This is a very important topic. It's a topic about which no one is reporting. No one. It's Palantir. It's an application that can and probably will set up the ultimate surveillance matrix, and Trump's the one who's implementing it. Imagine that. Anyway, I'm going to tell you about what Palantir is, and at the end, I'm going to tell you why Trump might just be a Judas goat. Maybe. Oh, and this is just part one. I've never done a two-part video before, but this topic is it's way too big for just one video. This one's going to be a little more technical, while the next one's going to ground them all together. So anyway, Palantir Technologies is a publicly traded Denver-based software company that builds data integration and analytics platform for large institutions, primarily governments, intelligence agencies, and Fortune 500 enterprises. In plain terms, it takes oceans of messy, siloed data from stuff like satellite imagery, financial records, social media streams, sensor feeds, medical records, etc., and makes them searchable, linkable, and useful through two main software suites. First is Gotham. Originally built for U.S. military and intelligence users, it fuses desperate data sources so analysts can run queries like find all phone numbers that contacted this suspect and have traveled in the same geofence with so many within 30 minutes of some kind of an attack. And then there's Foundry. It's a commercial spin that does the same heavy lifting on a commercial level. So in essence, it brings everything together into one central platform. Kind of like, what would be a good analogy? Well, kind of like the internet. Really? Yeah. Or maybe an AI? Oh, yeah, and that's the big thing. AI is going to get involved with this, too. Essentially, though, it is going to be set up as a means of tracking everyone, wherever they go, whatever they do, analyzing data, and get this, they're going to predict crime before it happens. Think about that. Think about the Minority Report. That's all going on with this, and we're going to continue on, and I'm going to show you what I mean.
The way for social change is humiliate your enemy and make them poorer.
I don't think in win-lose. I think in domination. I love the idea of getting a drone and having light fentanyl-laced urine spraying on analysts who tried to screw us.
What the?
Well, let's not judge a book by its insides.
PG, which single-handedly stopped the rise of the far right in Europe. We built Foundry, which was used to distribute the COVID vaccine and saved millions of lives globally. We built what we call multi-constellation, and what's often called the digital kill chain. And they're category-defining products. So when you deliver these products to the market, just honestly, people say this isn't going to exist, this isn't valuable, but then it changes the market. And then the market is the Palantir market. Now, that doesn't mean everyone in the world is going to buy our product, but it means most of the sensible people in the world are going to buy from the category we defined.
Now, what's the
This
other
is
one?
Alex Karp. That's Alex Karp saying that basically his company's software single-handedly stopped the far right in Europe, and now they're building the AI powered to be working for our government.
Now, this is being implemented. They're not thinking about it. They're doing it. So let's just take a look at some of the people who are setting this up. Founded in 2003 and 4 by Peter Thiel, Alex Karp, Joe Lonsdale, Stephen Cohen, and Nathan Gettings. Early funding came in part from Incutel, the CIA's venture capital arm, which explains why the national security DNA runs so deep in it. Incutel is a literal venture capital firm that gives money to programs the CIA wants to fund. Privacy groups criticize Palantir for enabling mass surveillance, predictive policing, and immigration enforcement. The bottom line is that Palantir is essentially the pick and shovel play on the Western security state and big enterprise AI ambitions. Now, it's not all bad. They're pitching this as a way of making the government more efficient, linking it in with Dodge, and just keeping an eye on everyone, keeping an eye on senators and congressmen, keep them from wasting money, keeping track of all the money we spend in the government, where it goes and who gets it. Now, that's a good idea. And like I said, that's the way they're pitching it. But, the solution to any problem begets more problems. And this is there's certainly a dark cloud, despite the silver lining.
We're voting for Trump because we judge the leadership of our country to have failed. Now that someone different is in the running, someone who rejects the false, reassuring stories that tell us everything is fine.
But the fact is though that this all runs completely counter to what he does and who he really is. He literally owns the company that's pioneering the new deep state, an unholy union between Silicon Valley privacy invasion and deep state power. It isn't just taking over the world, it already has.
No formal public doctrine exists yet, but every signal from organizational charts, earmarks, and early Dodge briefings screams that Palantir is being positioned as the de facto operating system for the second-term America First agenda. The outlines are already visible across 3 tracks, and I'm going to go over them. Mass defederalization and cost-cutting engine. Dodge is functionally Palantir's first customer. Foundry has been rolled out in pilot at GSA, OMB, and HHS to inventory every contract, grant, entitlement in real time. The goal is a weekly red ink heat map the president can drill into with AI-driven recommendations for rescissions. Which, like I say, that's a good thing. The Treasury is layering Gotham's fraud detection modules into IRS and Medicaid claims. Initial runs have already flagged $23 billion in high probability improper payments per an internal slide deck leaked to the Washington Free Beacon. But they're going to get your medical records too. Think about that. Let's just say your dad catches you smoking weed when you're 14, and because he's an asshole, throws you in a mental hospital. And that's going to follow you around, and Palantir will see that and know that, and anyone with access will be able to pull it right up and see it. I know someone, not me, but someone to whom that happened, and, it'll follow him around the rest of his life, just for getting high.
Tell me what you know about Palantir and what part of it excites you, if any of it does, and what part of it concerns you.
Okay. Palantir is a tool. Palantir is not a database. It is a tool. What does the tool do? The tool, like Excel, allows you to take a whole bunch of data and to dive into that data and figure out things. So that's what Palantir does. Why are people worried about it? Because it is an incredibly fast, adept, and powerful tool. The Social Security Administration, Pat, already has petabytes of information on America. When we're born, what we're doing now. They know every job you've had, because every time you have a job and you have FICA deducted from your paycheck, Vinny, goes to Social Security. They know every job you've had. The IRS, they know, they've got all the W-2s. They've got 1099s. They know who you've contracted for, who you've had jobs. Well, when you take the IRS database and then you take the Social Security database, you have an amazing fingerprint on the American citizen. Now fold into that like an FBI database. Now you know who's naughty, who's not, and all the places they've been. And you can do predictive modeling. What people worry about, Pat, is Minority Report, where you sit and you now have surveillance on people because of predictive modeling on what you might do in the future.
And ICE is going to be using this too. This is their dream come true. They're going to use it for border and interior enforcement amplifiers. CBP has converted every mobile device in the field to the Gotham Border Lens stack. Instant fusion of biometric exit data, geofence license plates hits, and ICE ATD ankle monitor pings means an alien flagged at any port generates a nationwide detainer within 90 seconds. DOJ is rebuilding the National Crime Information Center on top of Palantir's ontology to speed facial recognition against January 6, anti-Israel capitalist protesters, and organized shoplifting rings. Okay, so they're going to get organized shoplifting rings. That's cool. But campus protesters, January 6, going after folks that never even went into the Capitol, just were standing there. Industrial and Defense Mobilization Nerve Centers. Pentagon's new Replicator 2 AI drone swarm program is run out of Palantir's Apollo Cloud, which now hosts live kill chain data feeds from SpaceX Starlinks and every branch ISR platform. Anyway, they're going to get into your phones, instantly be able to spot your text messages, algorithms look for certain words, and, that could be okay. If you got kitty porn on your phone, they can get that, slap you in jail. But then, there are other things that aren't good. If they had this in 1776 would have never happened, because they wouldn't have even been able to have organized, and they would have arrested everyone months before anything happened.
Using these same systems, Palantir has been an essential partner of police forces across the West for years now. They've been most famous for their software that lets police departments engage in something known as predictive policing. In the same way that Palantir predicted which Afghan farmers were insurgents, they can also predict which regular people are involved with crime. Based on all the data that police forces have about people, they can draw up district or city-wide maps of where crime is likely to occur. They can then suggest patrol routes, where to station officers, and even which people to arrest. These systems often do nothing to actually counteract the inherent bias in the data they're given. When police patrol more often a given area, they find more crime and make more reports. That then gets fed into the system, which tells the police to invest more resources into that specific high crime area. But this is definitely not the worst part of the system though. You see, Vice obtained documents given by Palantir to a California police force they had a contract with in 2016, and the details were shocking. With their easy-to-use system, a police officer could simply type someone's name in and learn a staggering amount of information about them. Palantir would tell them what their email address was, their phone number, their date of birth, and their address. With just a license plate number, it could look at footage from public CCTV and figure out specific locations you'd been over a period of years, building up a complete pattern of movement. It could even link you to other people you spend time with and find out info on them as well. This is an invaluable tool in the hands of someone looking to control people, both Orwell
and now we're going to be getting into the real meat and potatoes of the whole thing. Powerful data fusion platforms tempt the same sins every tyrant dreams of, only now at machine speed. A Trump-led expansion of Palantir multiplies the surface area for abuse along 4 predictable vectors. Number 1, weaponizing Doge cuts for political retaliation. With Foundry slicing every federal dollar in real time, targeting switches from light items to people, the algorithm can simply retag the recipient as extremism linked, triggering immediate payment holds. Like, they don't like you too much, and so they cut your Social Security off. Then there's interior security mission creep. The border at first, then the suburbs. Every traffic camera, home Wi-Fi beacon, and state DMV database can now be fused into the same watch list that CBP uses at the Rio Grande. The same graph that tracks an MS-13 affiliate can be pivoted to trace a college protester whose license plate showed up near an anti-Zionist rally. Are you getting the picture now?
Like, do you know when it happened?
Well, they were funded through, quite literally through the CIA with the QTEL, right?
In-Q-Tel, which was CIA's arm that invested in different
venture
technologies.
Capital arm. Yeah.
So originally, when in 2001 9/11 happened, the government looked horrible because they were not able to, see how they got caught. CIA, NSA, all these guys looked very bad. So they tried to build a Palantir, but they were shut down by the government. In 2003-ish, they decided to build Palantir. If you can type up when Palantir got started, Rob, the exact year Palantir got started, should be like 03-ish. They decide to build this. There you go. Yeah, okay, May 6, 2003. The founders and names that we just talked about, Peter Thiel was one of the investors. I think their first few clients were CIA, NSA, few other companies. And that led to trying to prevent the next 9/11.
Next, the deep state privatization loop. Because Palantir is a private firm, congressional oversight relies on subpoenaing data the firm can declare state secrets. So in other words, Congress can't get to it unless they make a big rigmarole subpoenaing the information. And even then, they have to know what information they're looking for. Freedom of Information Act? Nope, don't think so. It's a private company. And then there's census surveillance. The Census Bureau pilot uses Palantir under the cover of operational analytics. Combine the once in 10 years address list with IRS, ICE detention records, and private sector geolocation results in a living dossier on every household.
Why is no one talking about this? This is terrifying. Palantir is a front for the Mossad. And I'm going to let you in on a little inside baseball. It's not going to take you long to look for this stuff. 15 years ago, 20 years ago, Bibi Netanyahu and the Israeli intelligence, they're recruiting Israelis out of high school and college. They enlist them in Unit 8200, their intelligence outfit, and they sent them to America to start tech startups. Do you know this? There was a major initiative in the 2000s and the 2010s. The Israeli cyber intelligence outfit was recruiting young Israelis and sending them as intelligence officers, as spies, to create startups in America, to create tech startups in Silicon Valley.
Whispers around the NSA side door program, known informally as Project Horn, portend the next step. An AI churn that issues no notice warrants by sniffing metadata patterns. So they're going to let AI loose on all of us, and it'll have access to everything, and it'll be sniffing around, being all AI, and just looking. And then if they think that you're suspicious, they can just issue a warrant, and they can come knock your door down based just on the conclusions an AI would make of you. And the abuse isn't hypothetical. Abuse is the default setting. Once the state possesses a living census fused to commercial data at scale. So, You know, human nature is such that you know that if anything can be abused, it will abused, and the laws won't make any difference.
Palantir company, right?
Yeah.
And that's about a surveillance thing. So this thing is fucked. This sounds crazy, dude. Like, this sounds like we're only going to be human for like 2 more years, right? So and this is the Palantir company where they're going to build security databases that have all of our information in them, right? That's what they're saying.
That's what they're saying, yeah.
And it's going to have like everything. It'll like look at you and know like if you're good at tennis, or if you've ever, you know, if you have $60 in your pocket, or if you're, you know, it can tell if your kids are, you know, if your kids can have a limp or whatever, if he'll be in the Christmas play.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It can tell all of that. And that feels real scary, man. Like,
I get it.
To a regular guy on the street,
yeah.
that feels like we're going to give our society like we're going to become these, like they're going to have know everything about us. It makes you feel like you won't be a person anymore.
I hear you.
Does that make sense to you?
No, it definitely makes sense to me. I mean, let me try to explain.
They're all in bed like this. They're all inextricably connected. When we say the elite, when we say the deep state, that's what we're referring to. That is your elite society. And J.D. Vance is at the intersection of all of it. You know, Trump, when he ran in 2024, he got $270 million from Elon Musk, Silicon Valley. He got $200 million from Tim Mellon, a banker. He got $100 and some million from Miriam Adelson, Israel lobby. He got millions from Bill Ackman, Wall Street, millions from Jacob Hellberg, Silicon Valley. Trump is the elite's candidate. Trump was the elite's candidate, and the elite is Jewish oligarchs. Israeli intelligence penetrated Jewish oligarchy from top to bottom. From BlackRock with Larry Fink and the hedge funds, which are all controlled by Jews, to the Ivy League universities, where I believe 6 out of 8 of them have Jewish presidents. The DOJ is coming down on them. The Department of Ed is coming down on them because they're not pro-Israel, Jewish enough. Silicon Valley, the most powerful movers there. From Founders Fund with Joe Lonsdale to Sequoia to you name it, Palantir. It's all Israeli intelligence. They sent them out there to penetrate, to infiltrate. And they increasingly are dominating the DOD defense contracts. They're filling up the National Security Council. They're taking control of the procurement process. Trump was a vessel. Trump branded himself in 2024 as the vengeance of MAGA and America First and mass deportations. In reality, he was the regime candidate. He was the candidate of Wall Street and Silicon Valley, of Israeli intelligence, of the Jewish oligarchs, of the World Jewish Congress. And ultimately, he is sort of an inconvenience. He is a vessel. He is a booster rocket. The payload is Vance. Vance was an artificial creation of Peter Thiel, of Elon Musk, of David Sachs, of the CIA, the American Enterprise Institute, of Netflix and CNN. And in 2028 or before, when he is crowned the president, he is going to bring the New World Order to the fore. Why is no one talking about this?
Now, I just did a video on the Alice in Wonderland technique for manipulating and changing a society. And, you know, it's pretty obvious that it's being done on us. But for brevity's sake, the method involves overwhelming the subject with contradictory, illogical, or nonsensical stimuli to disrupt their expectations of coherent and predictable world. Okay, so in other words, they scramble everything up, make everything all confusing. In other words, Wonderland. And people, the first time anything solid comes along, anything real, the people just latch right onto it because it's the one thing that provides clarity in a confused world. And, of course, that's being done. It has been done. Trans shit, all kinds of weird stuff. You know, just the most unbelievable idiocy. People get confused, and then guess what? Along comes Donald Trump, who actually gives people something real to latch onto. And Donald Trump is doing this with Palantir. And the irony is the people, in other words, the civilians with guns, who would otherwise oppose the totalitarian techno-state, are the very people who will be duped into ushering it in by following Trump, i.e. the Judas goat, into the slaughterhouse. Now, I've always had a vague suspicion that that might be what they're doing with Trump. And after reading this, researching this, you know, it's not irrational to think that. In the end, the Second Amendment people, the constitutional people, they're going to get duped into supporting the very thing that they had always opposed. The New World Order, you know, couldn't get going but for the American middle class with guns. Well, now they've just duped them into bringing in the very thing they said they were against. But especially, and this is where we go into the next video, watch out for Vance. He talks about liberty, but Peter Thiel put him where he is. He's there solely because of the guys who actually made Palantir. They put him where he is, and you need to watch out for this guy, and we'll talk about that in the next video.
The reason why so many European countries have such strong privacy laws is that if you look at what happened in the Netherlands had a census. France did not. And so when Hitler rolled into the Netherlands, they went to the office of the census, and they knew the addresses, names of every Jew, and they could round them up very efficiently and very easily. And the French had a much easier time helping Jews get out or hide them. So I just immediately sort of have a gag reflex around the government gathering lists on people, on information for profit, if you will. I don't think you can stop this, whether it's Palantir or someone else, gathering a lot of data on you. What I think we need is just really strong privacy laws and airtight legislation that says if you abuse these laws and use them and they do damage to people, you're liable and you could get hit very, very hard.